Welcome back into the den. I'm Tobin, episode 11 in my razor review series, the Mühle Rocca. It's known as the R95, R96, etc. The only real difference is the handle and how much it weighs. I have the R96 here, and so mine is the black enamel alloy, what do you call it? It's this one. The only difference with these R90 series is the handle. The heads are exactly the same. That's all that matters. So the birch one, the only reason why you're paying $148 for it instead of $95 is because of that birch wood and the extra work that goes into making it. I got mine a couple years ago as a Christmas gift for my girls. The reason why I decided to do this razor for episode 11 is because it is a razor that I find myself reaching for time and time again in my daily shaves. I absolutely love the way it shaves, and there's a couple of places that I'm going to ding this razor, if you will. There's a couple of things that you may not like about it, but overall, I love the way it shaves. It is an excellent daily driver. With that being said, same format as the previous 10 episodes. Let's get into it, starting off with the efficiency score. My measurements has this at a 0.030 blade gap. That translates out to about 0.77 millimeters, just shy of that. The exposure is positive. The blade gap on the Mühle R89 is 0.018. The Edwin Jagger DE89 is 0.028. While the blade gap is the same on this as the Edwin Jagger, it's still a little more efficient, and that has a lot to do with the angle and the exposure. I would give, the R89 like a 4 when it comes to efficiency, how aggressive it is, with like 5 being, your average, with that R89 being very close to average. The Edwin Jagger DE89 being average, like the same as, a Merkur 34C, your typical run-of-the-mill, right? And so with the R89 being a 4 and the DE89 being a 5, I'd give this a solid 6, maybe a 6.5 when it comes to how efficient it is. If you have a few razors, I think that you will find this to be just about average, but maybe a little higher than average. That brings us down into the Symmetry score. With the Symmetry score, we're going to take a look at the knurling on the handle, the blade tabs, whether or not they're exposed, and then the weight and balance. The weight and balance is perfect, exactly what you'd expect from Mühle and that, German craftsmanship. The weight and balance is perfect. Put the weight right up there. My particular razor, each one of these razors in the R90 series do weigh a little differently. And I do believe that mine is the V3, in case you're wondering. Blade tabs, they stick out just a teeny tiny bit. Like I always say, it doesn't matter to me, but if you are the kind of person that's looking for something where the blade tabs are covered, these don't stick out much, but you can grip the blade. I feel it is hanging out just a little bit, just enough that it would catch the nose or the ear, depending on your trouble spots that a blade tab might catch. I don't shave my mustache, haven't done that in probably 15 years, so it's not an issue for me. The knurling, I love the knurling on this handle. I've heard good things about the other ones. I don't own any of the other Rocca handles. All I own is this one, and it's perfect. I mean, it's just absolutely just perfect. Absolutely perfect. I never feel like this thing is going to be slippery or anything like that. The knurling is not sharp. It's ideal. It really is the ideal knurling for me. So for a Symmetry score, I'm going to give it an 8. It brings us down into tolerance. And here's where this is where you'll see me complain about the razor and where you might see others complain about the razor. With the tolerance, we're looking at the blade alignment, how easy it is to seat the blade into the head so that it's perfectly aligned and that you don't have to worry about adjusting it. I feel like this razor does that extremely well, that the blade alignment is just, the kind that you put the blade in the top cap, you screw it together, and it's perfectly aligned and you don't have to worry about it. Where this razor does have an issue, though, is with chatter, the clamping of the blade, how well it's clamped. Now, there's not a lot of chatter. It's very minor, to the point that you might not even notice it. But I do notice it from time to time. It's never the kind of thing that ever really affects my shave. Maybe the first couple of shaves I used it, it might have been an issue, but now you know that I've used it, I don't know, 50, 100 times, right? Because I'm a daily shaver most of the time. And I've had it, I think this will be 2 years this Christmas. And this is almost Thanksgiving now, 2024. I love it. I don't have any problems with it, but it is something that you should be aware of if you're going to make the purchase and you're going to invest, around $100 on this razor, that there is a little bit of just microscopic, just a little bit of chatter that is not perfectly clamped in there like you would expect a $100 razor to be. So that's really the only place that I would speak negatively of this razor. But again, I get damn fine shaves from it every single time, and it doesn't matter what blade I put in it. I have not found a bad blade in this razor. I've tried dozens of blades in it, and I always get a great shave. Next, that brings us down into the permanence score. And with that, we're just looking at the durability, the construction materials. Stainless steel, I do believe that this version of mine is CNC. It's going to last a lifetime. It's going to last several lifetimes with just a little bit of TLC. Mine has that matte finish to it. And I'm going to give it a 9 on permanence score. This thing is another one of those razors that would, duel as a club, and you can bubble club somebody with it. A permanent score of 9. Next thing we take a look at is the friendliness to new wet shavers. As always, I say that as a general rule of thumb, there's always exceptions. A general rule of thumb, don't spend less than 30, don't spend more than 50. You don't want to spend too little and get a piece of junk, and you don't want to spend too much in case wet shaving isn't for you. I think this is a perfect third or fourth razor, maybe even a fifth or a sixth, because of that chatter that I mentioned up above in the tolerance section. So I'm just going to give it a 5. For a new wet shaver, it would just be an average purchase. It's not a great razor for new wet shavers, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's a bad razor for new wet shavers. The last thing that we'll take a look at is value. Taking everything into consideration above and the price point, I think that if you spend less than $100 on this one or the other one, the birch was at the R96 or whatever, I don't know. But the one with the birch wood, if you want something that's really aesthetically pleasing and it's a beautiful razor, I wanted one originally, but for the extra $50, you're talking 30%, almost 40% more, depending on where you buy it from. And the only thing it's going to do differently is look pretty in your hand. And unless you're doing videos, shave of the day photos, there's really no advantage to getting that birch handle. So as long as you're spending less than $100 on this razor, I'm going to give it an overall value of an 8. I think it is a good value. I don't think it's a great value. And like I said, the only thing that I could say negatively about this razor is that there is just a little bit of chatter. Nothing extreme, but for $100, I expect less chatter than there is. But once again, that does not affect the killer shave that I get from this razor every single time I use it. And I find myself wanting to reach for this razor a couple of times a week, every week. It is one of my go-to razors, and that's why I chose it for today's video, episode 11 in my razor review series. It's a Little Big Things, my friends, and in this type of series, it's always value. And I do think that if you're looking for a heirloom piece for around $100, that you can't go wrong with this one. Take care. I'll see you next time.